right, welcome back, everybody. So Sultan Al Jaber, the head of Abu Dhabi's national oil company, he's the one who was the host of the recent UN climate meeting. He said, intelligently, eliminating fossil fuels would send all of us back to the caves. Listen to this.
Please help me, show me a roadmap for a phase out of fossil fuel that will allow for sustainable socio-economic development.
All right, joining me now with a comment or two about that and a few other things, we welcome back Mr. Kevin O'Leary, chairman of Leary Ventures, Shark Tank investor, and author of The Cold Hard Truth on Business, Money, and Life. You were there. How'd the crowd react to that?
So, Larry, I am your roaming reporter. I spent a whole, it was over a week in UAE. Mm-hmm. Three huge things happened there. First of all, Finance Week prior to the climate meetings happened in Abu Dhabi, packed. You couldn't even walk there. They announced the M2 exchange, the world's largest digital currency exchange, going public this week there. Everybody was there watching that thing. Number two, they announced they're now the third in the world in the development of AI technology, and with very accommodative policy. Here we debate in Congress whether we should do AI or not. Meanwhile, they're catching up to number three.
Who's they?
The government of the United Arab Emirates, specifically Abu Dhabi.
Really?
So everybody's over there. They want to do AI. They want to commercialize it. I put up my hand and said, I'm in. So I'm doing that over there.
And how about ending fossil fuels?
So then we all went down the road to Dubai, where this conference was, and that's what happened. Now, let me express something about that conference. It was, everybody that's involved in this whole thing, but the Paris Accord was there. It was also packed. So this country's making a big name for itself in gathering world leaders. That statement, by the way, is correct, but he said more than that, which was not carried by the international press. They are the leaders in carbon sequestration. They're going to be the model for how this works. They're going to invest to show you how you can extract hydrocarbons and take out the emissions. Now, he didn't get the press for that, but the point is that's how these leaders, including Exxon and everybody else, said, okay, we're in. We'll eliminate methane. We'll stop any carbon from leaking in the process, 99% of it, and we'll sequester it back in the ground. These guys are the leaders in how we're going to stay in hydrocarbons as long as we need to. And nobody picked that up.
Through the use of new technologies.
Yeah, the whole idea is they're going to
Lomborg and other sensible people have been saying for year after year. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. 80% of power around the world is fossil fuels.
I left that conference realizing these guys have a roadmap. They got a plan. We should listen to what they're saying and do the same thing because they can keep energy security in their region. We should do it the same domestically here. We have a way to sequester the carbon. We can park it all under North Dakota if we want. You know the whole story about the salt caves there. They have the technology there. I'm an advocate for solving the transitional period so that we can all stay safe and with energy. By the way, the Brits announced at the conference they're going to start drilling again. Sorry, guys, after watching what happened in Ukraine, they don't want to be without any oil.
By the way, John Kerry calls himself a militant. This is just another headline from this. John Kerry calls himself a militant and demands, Kevin O'Leary, an end to coal plants anywhere around the world. Now, I don't know if we have the chart up on the full screen, but the biggest producer of coal is China.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say a word about China. Greenhouse gas. There, that little blue line is China. And by the way, the United States is way down there, yellow line. See how we're coming down? China's going up. Kerry says he doesn't want any coal at all, but he doesn't talk about China.
Well,
by the
also
way, China is financing the war in the Middle East by buying Iranian coal. Just want to put that
over
in.
200 plants they're building. They're putting up so many because it's great for electricity, and they have electric cars they need electricity for. We can do the same thing with new scrubbers. We haven't built new coal plants in so long. There's so much new tech. I keep telling everybody technology solves the problem. Not policy alone. You got to let the private sector invest in technology. And right now, there's amazing technology available for coal burning and sequestering all the carbon.
But if you blow up fossil fuels, then this Sultan's going to be right. We will go back to the cave era. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing imaginable. And the least wait, the greatest harm will come to the least prosperous countries.
You know, I got to tell you, Larry, when I heard him say that, I thought, he's sitting in my seat on Shark Tank. He's telling the truth. And that's just the way it was.
Here, Bjorn Lomborg, one more. I want to quote Bjorn because he was on the show last week. Very important. That no one ever does any cost-benefit analysis when when the John Kerrys of the world say we have to get rid of all fossil fuels. Each dollar spent will avoid less than 17 cents of climate damage. Okay, the undiscounted loss over the next century would be $1,800 trillion. That would be the loss to the world economy. The world economy is only 100 trillion. So this would be 18 times the size of the world economy would be the cost of eliminating fossil fuels.
Larry, the good news is everybody's figured that out, and they're starting to realize we need a long transition tail. And I think the leaders of this are going to be the big oil-producing countries like the UAE. It's good news that everybody's waking up and smelling the roses on this story. I mean, I think it's really important. It's the first time I've ever seen a climate conference where the truth was spoken. People said, all right, we need a transition period. And all of a sudden, they're starting to say, let's do nuclear reactors, too. Let's get policy in place that keeps us secure with energy. I thought the whole thing was good news. And frankly, I couldn't believe how many people it attracted. It was packed.
I'll bet. One last thing, speaking of that neck of the woods. So OPEC Plus has another oil production cut, maybe voluntary, I don't know. But the interesting thing, Kevin, is oil prices keep coming down, gasoline keep coming down, despite the fact that they've cut about 5 million barrels per day. About 5% of total oil. Oil balances supply and demand roughly 100 million barrels a day. They've taken 5% out. But despite that, oil prices have come down. What do you make of it?
I think people don't really believe when these quotas are named and put out in the press. I think the market is very, very liquid based on demand. And frankly, you know, whether Brazil joins or not, the best strategy for any country is to be independent on energy, period.
Right.
And so
that's what we could have done.
Yeah, and you know, we've also
should.
Well, we should, of course. But I think when you can get people listening to the ideas of using technology to make oil extraction safe, then you get policy that supports it. And who knows what happens in the election, which is less than a year away?
Indeed.
This is going to be an issue. Energy security is an issue. And by the way, we got to fill up the reserves again, too. Yes. That should be done with domestic oil. Why not?
So Brent crude down $78. I mean, it was $40 not so long ago, a few years ago when somebody else was president. West Texas down to 73. I mean, that too was close to, I mean, during the pandemic it was less, but the average was 40 to 50. You're right. Why don't we just produce more and, you know, add the new technology? They're inventing new technologies to make it cleaner. And then add nuclear. You have these small modules, these nuclear modules now. That's what a Kevin O'Leary would do. Would you invest in that?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be a long-term strategy. Oil is going to trade between 70 and 95. Watch this, Larry, during the whole election cycle. Wow. That's what's going to happen. 70, when it gets past 80, people get squeamish. It shows up at a higher price, $4 in California. It's bad for policy when you all of a sudden have so much volatility in the energy prices. I think the election is going to have a big issue around energy, and I think you and I are going to be talking about it for the months to come. We are back in presidential election politics and policy.
Yes, love it. Kevin O'Leary, the best of the best.